Today we are in the fifth day of our session. Welcome all of you again and good morning. Honorable delegates, ladies and gentlemen, members of delegation, I would like to inform you briefly about the matter have been discussed recently at the Bureau. The decision was taken by Bureau to recommend to the committee members to proceed in the following guide. We will start today the examination of item 8 concerning nomination on the World Heritage List. In this regard, there is a slight change in the timetable of this morning's session. It is proposed to examine item 8A at the end of the examination of item 8B. It means that we will start with item 8 and then pass to the 8B. Therefore, we will, after proceeding the 8B, which concerns the nomination of the World Heritage List, according to the order of examination that can be found in page 4 of the document 8B, with the certain changes which were also agreed during the morning meeting of the Bureau, that the discussion of the nominations of Bahrain and Australia under numbers 9 and 11 will be done tomorrow. In spite of the speed of our discussion and how many files we will observe today, by all means, the proposal is to put the Bahrain and Australia discussion to the next day. So if you don't mind, we will approve this proposal of Bureau if there is no objections, and I don't see any. Now we will start with our agenda item 8, devoted to the nomination process and to the draft decision 43-8. I invite Mr. Balsamo, head of the nomination unit of the World Heritage Center, to briefly present this document. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. At its 42nd session, in its decision 42-8, the committee decided to include, for the first time in the draft agenda of its 43rd session, a general item 8 to allow discussion on the nomination process. Examination of this item is now open and shall remain open to the committee members until the termination of discussion of all sub-items under item 8. Document 43-8 presents the outcomes of the reflection meeting reforming the World Heritage nomination process that was held this year in Tunis from 23-25 January 2019 upon the invitation of the Tunisian government and with the financial support of the Australian government. In Annex 1 of this document presents the outcome of the outline consultation survey on the reflection concerning the nomination process, which was instrumental to define the areas on which the experts in Tunis should have focused their attention. And the meeting and the survey were both fundamental steps underpinning the ongoing reform of the nomination process. It is important to recall that the World Heritage Committee decided to review the nomination process, bearing in mind the global strategy. Its decision 42-12A also made a specific reference to recommendation number 3 of the IOS comparative mapping study of forms and models for use of advisory service by international instruments and programs, which had recommended that the World Heritage Committee take action to address the deviation between the recommendation of the advisory bodies and the decision made by the committee. Among other recommendations, the expert meeting in Tunis proposed a mandatory procedure of preliminary assessment for providing indication as to whether a site is suitable for nomination to ensure a more effective use of resources to help bring forward higher quality nominated sites. At the same time, reducing costs required for the preparation of nominations and to reduce the number of nominations that are unlikely to succeed. The meeting suggested that the review of the referral procedure, which was requested by the committee at its 42nd session, be postponed since it was considered premature to recommend amendments in isolation of a full package of integrated reforms. And the outcome of the Tunis meetings was presented to the ad hoc working group. And during its following meetings, the ad hoc working group, under the chairmanship of Azerbaijan, and guided by the set of principles and recommendations of the expert meeting, further debated, refined, and elaborated on the relevant aspects of the reform. And as you know, the work and recommendation of the 2018-19 ad hoc working group are presented as document 12 and will be examined on Tuesday. Following the set of recommendations coming from the principles on which the reform should be based, the committee at its current session is expected to examine the outcome of the work of the ad hoc working group in view of translating the results of the ongoing reflection into provision for examination and potential integration in the operational guidelines by the committee at its 44th session in 2020. Document 8 also mentioned about the organization of the expert meeting on sites associated with memories of recent conflicts. And in this context, it's worth recalling that, as noted in document 5A, so far, only limited voluntary contributions have been committed by state parties. Finally, document 8 suggests that the 50th anniversary of the World Heritage Convention in 2022 may provide a good opportunity to undertake a reflection on the global strategy. The draft decision of 43-8, which will be discussed at the end of all sub-items of point 8, is on page 3 of the English and page 4 of the French version of document 8. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I would like to inform you that this item will remain open to take into account the debates held under the agenda item 8A, 8B, 8C, 8D, and 8E. The draft decision will therefore only be adopted once we have completed the examinations of items 8A through 8E. I would like to know whether there are any comments on the agenda items. We have Australia, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Australia is very pleased with the comprehensive body of work undertaken in reviewing the nomination process since our meeting in Bahrain last year. It shows what can be achieved when the committee turns its mind to reform. We've laid the foundation for changes that will resonate through the years and underpin the credibility and integrity of the World Heritage List. It is important to recall the well from which this mood for change has sprung, the growing politicisation of the work of this committee. In Manama last year, we witnessed decisions to inscribe properties where the technical evaluation concluded they did not have outstanding universal value. Such decisions diminish the World Heritage List. In recent years, we have also seen some properties moved from deferral to referral and even from do not inscribe to referral, running strongly counter to the technical advice provided by the advisory bodies. Most recently, we saw such cases in Manama and Krakow. This year, we bear witness to the folly of that pathway, with previously referred properties now recommended for deferral or non-inscription. We can't help but wonder whether some of those properties might have been listed by now if the state party had received their evaluation and draft decision positively and taken advantage of the sound technical advice provided to reshape their nomination. In Manama, we had a long discussion about the time at which outstanding universal value was recognised and decided in decision 42-8 that OUV is recognised at the time of inscription of a property on the World Heritage List and that no recognition of OUV is foreseen prior to this stage. This is a principle we must uphold. States parties and civil society carefully watched our deliberations last year, as they do this year. A number of states parties intervened to speak powerfully against the bad conduct and practices they witnessed. This year, we suspect in recognition of last year's misadventures, a number of states parties have withdrawn nominations. Spain, Monaco, France, Belgium, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Italy and the United Arab Emirates. We thank them for their sound judgment and their implicit decisions to uphold the credibility and integrity of the Convention. Mr Chairman, we have much to look forward to. The path laid by the Tunis Expert Workshop and the deliberations of the ad hoc working group under Azerbaijan's excellent leadership is one we must walk together. The proposal we will consider later in this meeting to establish a mandatory preliminary assessment process before formal nominations are lodged, together with other reforms which are proposed, has great potential to strengthen the dialogue between states parties and the advisory bodies and yield consistently better nominations. We urge the committee to embrace these reforms when they are put before us. This is the pathway to upholding the vision of the founders of this convention, established as it was to create an effective system of collective protection of cultural and natural heritage of outstanding universal value to all of humankind.
Thank you. Hungary, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I wish a good morning to our colleagues. First of all, please allow us to say we welcome the addition of a standing item 8 on the agenda of the committee to allow more strategic discussions on the nominations. We have read the document prepared by the Secretariat carefully, and we see that we have been talking about the deviation from the advisory body recommendations for quite a number of years now. We find the table detailing the percentage of deviations quite alarming, because while it is true that these agreements can happen between the expert view of the committee and advisory bodies, when it happens so systematically, it erodes the credibility of the committee, the convention, and ultimately of UNESCO. A deviation rate that constantly fluctuates around 85–90% means that something is not right. We are hoping that the reform of the nomination process, as acknowledged in the document itself, will contribute to alleviate this issue by helping states parties develop higher quality nominations. We believe that the premature inscription of a property which is not quite ready yet to be on the list, immediately triggering swap processes at the time of its inscription, puts a strain on the whole convention system, including the World Heritage Centre and the advisory body's workload. This is not in the interest of the state parties. In closing, we wish to recall that every decision we take has to be taken in accordance with the operational guidelines, which provides the framework for our work here. Its paragraph 23 says that the committee's decisions are based on objective and scientific considerations, and we urge all of us to keep this paragraph in the forefront of our minds as we embark on our work under item 8. In closing, we also join our Australian colleagues right now commending the state parties who have withdrawn their nominations to work more on them, and we are very hopeful that these nominations will come back at a later stage with a positive evaluation from the advisory bodies. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Spain, please.
Gracias, presidente. En primer lugar, agradecer a la Secretaría el resumen que nos ha hecho respecto al nuevo proceso de evaluación, que esperamos que sea mejorado. En ese sentido, nuestra delegación se quiere adherir a los comentarios que ha hecho Australia y recientemente Hungría y, por supuesto, agradecer a la delegación de Túnez esa importante reunión que tuvo lugar y que además fue financiada por el propio país. Dicho esto, me gustaría preguntar al presidente cuándo es el momento procedimental, porque nos gustaría hacer una intervención con respecto a la candidatura que España ha retirado. Hemos preguntado previamente y nos han dicho que era este el momento procedimental. Entonces, si me da su permiso, procedo a intervenir y, si no, cuando el resto de los estados del comité hayan intervenido sobre el proceso de evaluación, España podrá hacer la intervención. Pero me gustaría que nos lo confirmara. Gracias.
Is it general comment?
Son comentarios generales y particulares respecto al proceso de evaluación de esta candidatura.
I think that we have to do it later on when we will start nomination procedure.
Perfecto, pero nos dice usted cuándo, por favor. Gracias.
Okay. Now, Norway, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving Norway the floor. World heritage is something that belongs to all of us. World heritage is our unique and shared privilege and responsibility. What is stated in item 4, therefore, is addressed to all 193 state parties to the Convention. Item 8 describes the worrying fact that among this year's 35 nominations to be decided on by the committee, we count 15 from Europe, but only 1 from Africa. And to continue, of these 35 nominations, 27 are on culture, whilst 6 are on nature. How could these facts ever help us achieving the goals of the global strategy? Norway finds it pertinent to remind ourselves, the state parties to the Convention, to do whatever we can to strive for the fulfillment of paragraph 54 of the operational guidelines on the establishment of a representative, balanced and credible World Heritage List. Another worrying fact is that the committee decides on more than 8 out of 10 cases deviate from the advisory body's recommendations. This is the responsibility of the committee, of course, but it's also a result of lobbying, pressure and expectations from the other state parties to the Convention. Norway finds this situation untenable, as it is extremely detrimental to the credibility of the World Heritage System, to quote our document in question. Our aim for this session, therefore, is to do our best in accomplishing what is expected of us in the operational guidelines, in particular paragraph 23 regarding objective and scientific-based decisions, as well as para 51 stating that outstanding universal value is recognized only at the time of inscription, never before. Some nominations do not meet the requirements stated in the World Heritage Convention and operational guidelines. This year, the Norwegian delegation would like to commend Belgium, France, Italy, and Monaco, Spain, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and United Arab Emirates for the withdrawal of their nominations. These countries have chosen not to challenge the Convention and are example for all state parties. Our decisions now will shape the future for this Convention and its future credibility and relevance. Norway supports the draft decision. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Tunisia, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais tout d'abord remercier le Centre d'avoir présenté ce rapport extrêmement illuminant et instructif sur cette réunion que mon pays a été heureux et convaincu de recevoir. À ma droite est assis le directeur de l'Institut national du patrimoine. Il a été la cheville ouvrière du côté tunisien dans sa réception. Permettez-moi de lui transmettre mes remerciements. La question dont nous avons discuté à Tunis est une question centrale sur l'avenir de notre convention et sur sa capacité d'évoluer et de s'adapter. Nous avons choisi depuis la session de Manama la question du processus d'inscription. Je crois que c'est extrêmement important. Il y a des questions d'équilibre, il y a des questions de justice, mais il y a aussi une question d'interprétation et de conformité à la lettre et à l'esprit de la Convention. La Tunisie rejoint l'ensemble de ceux qui ont pris la parole avant nous pour dire que c'est une responsabilité. C'est une responsabilité à la fois collective, mais une responsabilité individuelle à chacun de nous de porter l'interprétation optimale de cette Convention. Je vous donne pour exemple le cas de la Tunisie qui, pendant les 4 années de son appartenance à ce comité, s'est abstenu à présenter ses propres dossiers à l'inscription, alors que notre liste indicative comporte au jour d'aujourd'hui 12 biens, dont certains seraient susceptibles d'une inscription relativement courte dans le temps. Donc cela montre que cela nous revient à la fois collectivement et individuellement. Je crois que chacun de nous doit être le porteur de cette convention, à la fois comme membre de la communauté internationale, mais comme aussi État partie au plan individuel. Je crois que ces réflexions sont extrêmement importantes. Je me félicite qu'on pourrait, comme l'a proposé le Centre, prendre la date symbolique du cinquantenaire pour mener des réflexions dans d'autres directions dans le cadre de cette convention. Les travaux de notre session actuelle montrent qu'il y a un besoin urgent pour regarder le sens que l'on devrait donner, la mise en œuvre qu'on devrait donner à une catégorie comme celle de mettre les biens sur la liste en péril, par exemple. Nous devons mener cette réflexion, nous devons avoir à la fois le courage et la responsabilité de donner vie à notre convention. Elle a été écrite et pensée en 1972, nous sommes en 2019, c'est à nous de lui permettre la meilleure interprétation et la meilleure réception possible dans nos différentes communautés. Et je rejoins tous ceux qui ont dit que le patrimoine mondial est une question qui interpelle chaque individu de la communauté des humains, et je crois que cela est le message le plus important que nous devons envoyer à l'ensemble des pays membres et de leur population.
Thank you very much. Now we have applied for the intervention from some state parties. So first is Republic of Korea, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The delegation of the Republic of Korea would like to acknowledge the approach by the World Heritage Center to proceed with the discussion on the nomination process, notably on the site associated with memories of recent conflicts. We commend the approach by the Center to implement the decision of the 42nd Committee to convene on expert meetings on sites associated with memories of recent conflicts at the end of this year, and would like to share that the government of the Republic of Korea decided to take part in this endeavor. The Republic of Korea has been an active advocate on the study of the heritage interpretation, organizing 5 international conferences so far on this topic. We are also looking forward to the establishment of a new Category 2 Center on the heritage interpretation to be approved this November at the 40th session of the General Conferences of UNESCO. We are pleased to expand our support to the sites associated with memories of recent conflicts, as we believe this topic will offer us an opportunity to enhance our understanding and diversify our views on heritage and the history associated with them. In this vein, we would like to encourage the state parties to participate to this valuable initiative. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. We have applied from Finland. Please, Finland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Finland takes the floor for the first time, we would like to express our appreciation and gratitude to Azerbaijan for hosting us with such hospitality and kindness. We thank the World Heritage Center and the advisory bodies for their in-depth reports. And we appreciate the difficulties that the committee struggles with as it tackles the challenging issues concerning World Heritage sites. However, as we have heard and read, there's an increasing number of World Heritage sites struggling to protect their outstanding universal value. The World Heritage sites are the crown jewels of our common natural and cultural heritage. Therefore, it is of utmost concern that many of them are threatened. As international community, we owe it to ourselves and to the future generations to take care of them. Finland is happy to welcome new nominations, especially so that a more balanced World Heritage list is achieved, and so that the world's exceptional natural and cultural sites are recognized. Nevertheless, we should try to focus our unfortunately limited resources also on strengthening the protection and mitigation of negative effects on the existing World Heritage sites, as these are facing many challenges. In this regard, we would like to take this opportunity to salute the state party Mexico for their readiness to welcome the inclusion of the World Heritage Site, islands and protected areas of the Gulf of California, into the list of World Heritage in danger. We congratulate Mexico for taking this as a positive opportunity to solve the challenges in the site. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now the floor is going to Denmark, please.
Thank you, Chair. As this is the first time Denmark takes the floor We would like to thank Azerbaijan for the warm hospitality we have met here in Baku and to compliment you for this very well-organized committee meeting. After having witnessed the committee's discussions and decisions on the state of conservation reports and bearing the 42nd committee meeting in mind, the State Party of Denmark wants to reiterate the concerns that we expressed in Manama over the committee's tendency to deviate from the expert bodies' advice in their decisions and the impact it might have on the credibility of the World Heritage List. It seems now as if this tendency is becoming practice. Since the meeting in Manama, a serious and thorough work has been done by the ad hoc working group, summed up in 16 recommendations, all with the potential to contribute to better nominations and more efficiency amongst the committee, and more confidence amongst the committee, the advisory bodies, the World Heritage Center, and the state parties. Some of the ad hoc working group's recommendations deal with new methodologies or modified formats, that is to say, more technical matters. Others, like the proposed code of conduct, are dealing with a change of mindset or attitude and are as such dependent on the will amongst all of us to comply with it once adopted. We congratulate the ad hoc working group with the results so far and want to express our sincere hope that the work will continue in the same holistic and pragmatic way and fulfill the aim. Now, at the opening of discussions of nominations to the World Heritage List, the State Party of Denmark urged the committee to listen to the advice from the expert bodies and to take decisions based on objective and scientific considerations. And we wish you every success in doing so. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I don't see any applies for interventions. No, we have Sweden, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Since this is the first time our delegation takes the floor, I would like to thank the host country for the warm welcoming and excellent organization of the meeting. We have closely followed the committee's discussions the past days and would like to share with you some reflections. Sweden considers the work on conservation and preservation to be at the very core of the World Heritage Convention. Sustainable development should be fully integrated. We see no contradiction between conservation on the one hand and sustainable development on the other. On the contrary, successful conservation of World Heritage sites goes hand in hand with sustainable development, economic, social, and environmental, and are thus mutually reinforcing. We would like to underline that inscription of sites that lack adequate protection and management is problematic, since many of these sites risk resulting in state of conservation reports shortly after their inscription. Such problems can be avoided if they are addressed in the nomination process. Moreover, hasty nominations have financial consequences. This is important to be aware of, especially since the committee has decided to prioritize conservation over nominations. All state parties should take into account the global strategy for a balanced and credible World Heritage List when preparing tentative lists and nominations. The global strategy is a tool for a credible implementation of the Convention. Finally, the work with World Heritage should reinforce the implementation of the 2030 Agenda on Sustainable Development. In this regard, we also would like to underline the importance of taking into account gender equality in the work of the Convention, as well as the fundamental role of civil society. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Angola, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. L'Angola aimerait également faire quelques commentaires par rapport au processus d'inscription des biens sur la liste du patrimoine mondial, notamment pour la région Afrique. Comme vous le savez, l'Afrique continue à être sous-représentée dans cette liste. D'ailleurs, cette année, on n'a qu'un seul bien qui va être inscrit. Donc, nous demandons à ce que le centre, les organes consultatifs, évidemment, tous les partenaires qui accompagnent l'Afrique, de continuer à apporter leur soutien aux États parties africains en termes de renforcement de capacité et également d'assistance internationale pour des processus en amont qui devraient permettre aux États parties de préparer des dossiers en meilleures conditions pour pouvoir le présenter donc pour inscription. Et ensuite, les États africains également sont concernés par la question des sites liés aux mémoires et aux conflits récents. Donc nous voulons également sur ces chapitres-là que les activités soient menées de telle façon que les directives claires soient définies afin de permettre aux États parties africains qui sont intéressés par cette thématique de pouvoir présenter des sites pour inscription dans les années qui suivent. Donc nous pensons que le centre et les organes consultatifs ainsi que les fonds pour le patrimoine mondial africain pourraient se mettre ensemble, ainsi que d'autres centres de catégorie 2 d'autres régions qui pourraient venir en renforcement à toutes ces stratégies afin de permettre donc aux États parties africains de pouvoir s'améliorer, et cela permettra justement que la stratégie globale soit mise en œuvre de manière juste pour qu'on ait une liste du patrimoine mondial équilibrée, crédible et représentative. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. Slovenia, please.
Mr. Chairperson, thank you for giving me the floor, and sincere thanks on behalf of our delegation for the warm welcome we experienced in Baku. Allow me a short statement on behalf of Slovenia, conveying a message of our shared responsibility for the conservation of World Heritage properties. As mentioned already in the reports under items 5 and 12, and just presented by the Secretariat, an important reflection on the much-needed revision of the nomination process has been formally launched. The ongoing reflection is bringing together committee members, observer states parties, World Heritage Centre advisory bodies, as well as experts and relevant stakeholders. As we are continuously faced with the growing complexity of the cases examined by the committee, be it SOC reports or the nominations, we are becoming increasingly concerned for the future of the World Heritage List and what it stands for. We have decided for a proactive approach, contributing our expertise and experience, readiness to exchange, and willingness to learn. Allow me to thank the Centre, ABs, and colleagues from a number of countries. We highly appreciate their active role and hope that more states parties will articulate their views at the forthcoming General Assembly in November, allowing for a larger policy debate on many clearly interconnected issues at stake. Chairperson, some of the visible strengths of the World Heritage System are grounded on the established procedures and mechanisms. They follow the methodology, scientific-based approach, and are a part of a well-defined process. We strongly believe we should build upon these principles, not only to avoid tensions arriving at the decision-making stage. Credibility is the key issue connected to the future of the Convention in our view. Credibility of the entire set of processes, all involved partners and actions that follow on site. In closing, we look forward to the discussion on the proposed steps of the reform of the nomination process, with the preliminary assessment as one of its crucial elements. Slovenia stands ready to contribute further in the framework of the ad hoc working group and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Switzerland, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. La Suisse se félicite des efforts qui ont été entrepris durant l'année passée pour améliorer le processus d'inscription. Ces travaux sont cruciaux pour l'avenir de la Convention et nous aimerons remercier les États parties d'Azerbaïdjan, de l'Australie et de la Tunisie qui ont soutenu et rendu possible ces discussions. Toutefois, les décisions sur les états de conservation des derniers jours ont démontré que nous avons besoin de nous concentrer davantage sur le mandat que nous donne la Convention du patrimoine mondial. Le mécanisme de l'inscription sur les listes en péril, par exemple, existe. Il a fait ses preuves, il aide les États parties, mais il n'a pas été appliqué comme prévu par la Convention et les orientations, ce qui est regrettable et ce qui ne contribue pas au bon fonctionnement de la Convention et surtout pas non plus à la meilleure conservation des biens concernés. Dans ce sens, et en vue des décisions à prendre sur les inscriptions cette année, nous sommes confiants que le comité sera conscient de sa responsabilité et nous aimerions remercier les pays qui ont retiré leurs nominations qui ne sont pas recommandées pour inscription, contribuant ainsi à la crédibilité de la Convention et aussi à la sérénité des décisions du comité. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. And I would like to give the floor to Mrs. Rosler for some comments and answer to questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and I would like to thank the committee and all states parties for the very rich debate under this general item 8. I would like just to comment on a few points which were raised. First of all, the issue of the sites of memory and sites of recent conflicts. As I explained in our Secretariat's report, we intend to do the meeting in December 2019 if we have the funds, and we got under item 5A already a commitment by a committee member, but we currently don't have enough funds to do the meeting. Secondly, the whole discussion on conservation. Conservation is the key issue of this convention. It's the most important convention globally, with 193 countries having ratified it. And the key issue is really conservation of both biodiversity and cultural diversity. And then I noted a couple of points. Gender equality we have covered in our Secretariat's report, and very importantly, of course, the points by Angola on capacity building, especially in the African region, together with our African World Heritage Fund, which is a UNESCO Category 2 center, and we will certainly strengthen that. That's all I would like to say at this stage, because item 7 and item 8 remain open for any further debates. Thank you very much.
Tanzania.
Thank you, Chair. This committee makes decisions guided by experts, but also guided by politicians, but also guided by other means of making decisions. Humans are created with weaknesses, imperfections, and therefore cannot be perfect. And so that doing, we cannot be perfect in our undertakings. However, during our discussions on the state of conservation of the World Heritage properties, Tanzania has always been against putting a site on a World Heritage in danger before the identification of the corrective measures and before the roadmap to how it comes out of the danger list. We have heard distinguished delegates of this committee saying that the guidelines are adequately followed. We would want to be enlightened on how paragraph 183 and 189 is applied, so that we also go out of this room with knowledge from those who are aware on how those paragraphs are used. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Bosnia, please.
Following the discussion in Bahrain, we done in Bosnia and Herzegovina homework, changing regulation about protection of national heritage, using all the international guidelines and conventions, and to prepare to work with our national monuments, especially on the World Heritage List, the tentative list of World Heritage. And I think that every country should first done homework, then to join the international stage. Thank you.
Thank you. So, as soon as... Okay, please. Mrs. Rosler, please.
Thank you very much. There was one question from Tanzania, which is the procedure for inscription of properties on the list of World Heritage in danger, and there could be additions by our legal advisor in case of need. So in 183, it clearly states that when the committee puts a site on the danger list, as far as possible, in consultation with the state party, you should have a desired state of conservation for the removal of the property of the list of World Heritage in danger and a program for corrective measures, and this is directly linked to the provisions in the convention itself. Now, this, as far as possible, there are situations where this is not possible, because normally we would send a mission and the mission then discusses with the state party the details of the desired state of conservation. We had situations in this committee, especially in conflict regions, where we are clearly not even able to establish any such desired state of conservation because we are not able even to go on site. So there is this provision of as far as possible. I am aware that you are very concerned about a number of sites which are on the danger list where this has not been done, but the normal procedure is actually we need to work very, very closely with the state party to define this desired state of conservation. And I'm absolutely with you that this has not been done for a number of sites. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I hope that there is no other amendments now for the time being, because we remain the item 8 open, as we agreed, along with the item 7, and we will be approving them at the end of the day. So now we can, it's now time for us to consider nominations of properties to the World Heritage List. I would like to recall that the relevant working documents concerning nominations are 8B and 8B.add. The advisory body's evaluation can be found in the information documents, ICOMOS 8B1 and 8B1.add, as well as IUCN 8B2 and 8B2.add. Let me also recall the document information 8B3 presents the list of nominations received by 1st February 2019, with the indication of those which were deemed complete. These nominations will not be discussed during our debates here, as they are foreseen to be examined at our next committee session in 2020 in China. Document information 8B4 presents factual errors identified by the state parties in the advisory body's evaluations, and it was distributed to you on Monday, the first day of the committee session. Now I invite the Secretariat to present this document and read out the list of nominations for which factual errors notifications have been received, and to add some explications. Mr. Balsamo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In compliance with paragraph 150 and Annex 12 of the operational guidelines, the notification of factual errors, as submitted by the concerned state parties and reviewed by the relevant advisory bodies, are presented in the language in which they have been submitted. It is important to recall that Annex 12 of the operational guidelines is the official format of submission of factual errors identified in the advisory body's evaluation, and only notification received by the statutory deadline and submitted in the appropriate form of Annex 12 have been made available and included in document Inf 8B4. The comments made by the advisory bodies in the right column indicate whether the information submitted is actually considered as a factual error or not. This year, we received 25 factual errors notifications concerning the following nominations to be examined: Iran, Iranian Forest; Thailand, Kankrachang Forest Complex; Albania, Natural and Cultural Heritage of the Hori region; Australia, Bajibin Cultural Landscape; Austria, Großglockner High Alpine Road; Austria, Germany, Hungary, and Slovakia, frontiers of the Roman Empire, the Danube Lines; Azerbaijan, historic center of Sheki with the Kang Palace; Burkina Faso, ancient pharaohs metallurgy sites; Canada, writing on stone Hesenapi; China, archaeological ruins of Lanzhou city; Czechia and Germany, Erzgebirge Krishnohori mining region; Czechia, landscape for breeding and training and ceremonial carriage horses is at Kletruby and Nad Laben; Germany, water management system of Augsburg; India, Jaipur city, Rajasthan; Indonesia, umbilical mining heritage of Sawalunto. Iraq, Babylon. Jamaica, sunken city of Port Royal, a relic and continuing cultural landscape. Japan, Mozofuruichi Kofun Group, mounded tombs of ancient Japan. Laos, People Democratic Republic, megalithic jar site in Chengkuang Plain of Jars. Portugal, Royal Building of Mafra, Palace, Basilica Convent, Circo Garden, and Hunting Park, Tapada. Portugal, Sanctuary of Bom Jesus do Monte in Braga. Republic of Korea, Silwon, Korean Neo-Confucian Academies. Russian Federation, Monuments of Ancient Skull. United States of America, the 20th century architecture of Frank Lloyd Wright. And one for the minor boundary modification proposed by France on Arles, Roman and Romanesque monuments. And before the presentation of the concerned nominations by the advisory bodies, the Secretariat will announce the related factual error notification received. And for those notification of factual errors recognized by the concerned advisory body as such and that have an impact on the proposed statement of OUV, the amendment is already included on the text that will be shown on the screen in track changes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Balsamo. Any objections from the committee members? I don't see any. So let's proceed then. Let's now move to the first draft decision of document 8B concerning proposed changes to names of properties already inscribed in the World Heritage List. Mr. Balsamo, you're welcome again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the request of the Sri Lankan authorities, the committee is asked to approve a change to the English and French name of the property Golden Temple of Dambulla, inscribed on the World Heritage List in 1991. The name of the property becomes Rangiri Dambulla Cave Temple in English and Temple Troglodyte de Rangiri Dambulla in French. Draft Decision 43-8B1 is on page 1 of both the English and French working document 8B. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Are there any objections to this change? As far as I know, Rapporteur didn't have received any amendments and any other drafts to this item. So we can proceed. Thank you. So now I invite you to adopt the draft decision.
Spain is now asking.
Spain, I remember. I remember. Now I invite you to adopt the draft decision 43-8B.1. But before doing so, I would like to ask the rapporteur about draft decision. They were not, yes? Any?
We have no amendments, thank you.
Thank you. So it is adopted. Thank you very much. Now I invite Mr. Balsamo to present the second name change, please.
Thank you, Chair. At the request of the Ukrainian authorities, the committee is asked to approve a change to the English and French name of the property Kiev Santa Sofia Cathedral and related monastic buildings, Kiev Perchesk Lovra, inscribed on the World Heritage List in 1990. The name of the property becomes Kiev Santa Sofia Cathedral and related monastic buildings, Kiev Perchesk Lovra in English, and Kiev Cathédrale Sainte-Sophie et ensemble des bâtiments monastiques et l'or de Kievo-Perchesk in French. Please note that under request and in agreement with the concerned state party, 3 minor corrections highlighted in green have been introduced in the version of the draft decision which will be now on the screen. Draft decision 43-8B2 is on page 1 of both English and French working document 8B. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Now, we don't have any proposal for in draft. Thank you. Can we approve? Thank you very much. Our next point deals with the withdrawals of nomination to be examined by this session of the committee, and I would like to give the floor first to Spain and then to Mr. Balsamo to proceed.
Sí, muchísimas gracias, presidente, miembros del comité, representantes de los Estados parte. España presentó, como saben, en enero de 2018 la candidatura Priorat Montsant-Siurana, Mosaico Mediterráneo, Paisaje Cultural Agrícola, que debería haberse debatido hoy en Bakú durante esta sesión del comité. Desgraciadamente, esto no va a ser posible, puesto que el Estado español ha decidido, muy a su pesar, retirar esta candidatura como consecuencia, entendemos, de una recomendación de no inscripción que ya le adelantamos, entendemos injusta y con lo cual comprenderán lo difícil y dolorosa que ha sido esta decisión para nuestro país. Respetamos, por supuesto, profundamente a los órganos consultivos de los que la Convención se dotó en su momento y que hoy siguen ejerciendo su misión, pero este respeto no cercena en ningún caso nuestra obligación de manifestar las debidas críticas, constructivas, por supuesto, sobre cualquier proceso de evaluación que consideramos, en este caso, inadecuado e injusto. Este paisaje cultural ha hecho que probablemente todas estas evaluaciones han conducido a que esta retirada la hayamos tenido que hacer por parte de España. En este sentido, tenemos que decir que estamos muy decepcionados por las incongruencias del proceso de evaluación, comenzando con la propia misión de evaluación y seguidamente con las siguientes fases del proceso, como evidentemente hemos remitido a ICOMOS a través del Ministerio de Cultura de España. Sin embargo, hemos decidido retirar esta candidatura por el total respeto que tenemos al proceso de aprobación de un próximo Código de Conducta del Comité de Patrimonio Mundial y también por una escrupulosa coherencia y estricta prudencia como posición que tenemos de ser miembros del Comité y para contribuir, como siempre ha hecho España, a la credibilidad del Comité, de la lista y de la Convención. Y acabamos de mencionar el Código de Conducta y precisamente en su borrador de junio de 2019 se señala que es una obligación compartida, es decir, la tenemos todos, el Comité, los Estados, los órganos consultivos y debería de asegurarse desde siempre. Implica a todos y a todos los procesos, desde el principio hasta el final, y nos gustaría que eso fuera siempre así. Dicho esto, entenderán que no vamos a desistir y que vamos a perseverar para intentar lograr la inscripción de este paisaje cultural, porque después de más de 12 años de trabajo constante e ininterrumpido preparando esta candidatura con las personas que modelan día a día este paisaje, estamos convencidos, y no tenemos ninguna duda científica ni académica sobre ello, que esta candidatura merece ser defendida aquí y hoy y que además este paisaje no es únicamente representativo de nuestra área geocultural, sino que representa también a millones de mujeres y hombres agricultores de los 5 continentes que, al igual que en este paisaje, sus referencias son el respeto a la agricultura a pequeña escala, el respeto medioambiental, la preservación de la biodiversidad y la fidelidad a su tierra y a su paisaje, que es lo que finalmente asegura su supervivencia, viabilidad y sostenibilidad. Así, desde este mismo instante y desde aquí, queremos invitar ya al órgano consultivo correspondiente a tener las sesiones de trabajo que sean necesarias para poder volver a presentar esta candidatura, que entendemos que es un paisaje que no está todavía representado en la lista. Acabo expresando con toda humildad que este paisaje agrícola representa una propuesta precursora y avanzada. Ello puede haber contribuido a este desenlace inesperado e inimaginable para nosotros hace tan solo unas semanas. Porque este paisaje no es solo testimonio de un pasado y de un presente, sino sobre todo de un compromiso inequívoco con un futuro posible, viable, deseable, sostenible, en completa sintonía con la filosofía de Naciones Unidas y de la UNESCO y, por supuesto, en el marco de la Agenda 2030. Por todo ello, entenderán la obligación que tenemos de persistir en la defensa de este paisaje y de inscribirlo en la lista de Patrimonio Mundial. Gracias, presidente, y perdón por haberme excedido del tiempo.
Now the floor is going to Mr. Balsamo to read out the list of nominations withdrawn at the request of the concerned state party. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A total of 8 nominations were withdrawn. 5 of them were withdrawn prior to the publication of document 8B, while the other 3 were withdrawn after the publication of this document. And the 8 withdrawn nominations are France, Italy, Monaco, Alpi del Mediterraneo, Alpi della Mediterranee, Italy, Silla Forest Ecosystem, Belgium, Hoogekempen Rural Industrial Transitional Landscape, Saudi Arabia, the historic village of Rir Al Halma and in Azir region of Saudi Arabia. Spain, Priorat, Montsant, Surana, Mediterranean mosaic, agrarian, cultural landscape, 1579. Turkey, historic guild town of Mudurnu, testimonies of Akism. Turkey, Kizilmak, Delta wetland and bird sanctuary. And United Arab Emirates, Sharjah, the gateway to the neutral states. Following these withdrawals, the committee will have to examine 35 nominations, among them 5 are for natural sites, 2 for mixed sites, and 28 for cultural sites. And let me take this opportunity to remind you that the complete PDF version of all the nominations which are examined at this session have been made progressively available for consultation on a secured web page of our website. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any comments? I have an apply from Italy, as far as I see, to make comment. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I'd like to express our appreciation to Azerbaijan for the warm welcome and the excellent organization of this committee. I take the floor on behalf of Italy, France, and Monaco on the nomination of the natural cross-border property of the Mediterranean Alps, which has just been withdrawn following the joint decision of our 3 states parties. We are determined to continue working, taking into account the remarks of the advisory board. This ambitious and highly innovative nomination unites 2 natural contexts, the Alps and the Mediterranean Sea. It focuses on the extraordinary serial site that connects the southernmost glaciers of the Alps at over 3,300 meters of altitude to deep waters of the western Mediterranean, which reach a depth of 2,500 meters, embracing an immense naturalistic heritage. The nomination illustrates a unique geological system of exceptional importance for the study of terrestrial geodynamics, with perspective measure covering 97% of the candidate site. For decades, Italy, France, and Monaco have been actively collaborating at the regional level to protect our mountain and our common sea under multilateral and trilateral agreements. We take into account the outcomes of the evaluation process in the spirit of consultation and dialogue with IUCN, pursuant to the operational guidelines, and we commit to keep working together in order to create the condition to submit again the candidature of Mediterranean Alps in future nomination cycles. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. We will take it for note. Now, as we begin with the examination of nominations, I would like to take this opportunity to recall that the committee's decisions are based on objective and scientific considerations, and any appraisal made on its behalf must be thoroughly and responsibly carried out. The committee recognizes that such decisions depend upon following: carefully prepared documentation, thorough and consistent procedures, evaluation by qualified experts, and, if necessary, the use of expert referees. The committee is requested to examine the draft decisions presented to the relevant documents and, in accordance with the paragraph 153 of the operational guidelines, take its decisions. I wish to stress that for a referred nomination, there is no new nomination file to be prepared, and there is no evaluation mission of the relevant advisory body foreseen to the site. Also, in compliance with the Convention and the operational guidelines, outstanding universal value is recognized at the time of inscription of a property on the World Heritage List, and no recognition of outstanding universal value is foreseen prior to this stage. I would like to appeal to you for a strict respect of these important rules during our debates and decision-making. We can now proceed with the examination of nominations. This year, we will begin with the natural nominations. We will then proceed with the mixed nominations, followed by cultural ones. The order of the examination of nominees is listed on page 4 of both the English and French version of documents, and 8B, and I would kindly ask you to follow the order to the extent possible, noting that 2 nominations, number 9 and 11 from the list, are shifted for tomorrow. For ease of reference, the page numbers of the evaluations in the advisory body documents are also shown on the PowerPoint presentation. As you know, considering the latest withdrawals, currently we have 35 nominations to examine between today and Sunday. And even applying a quite strict scheduling, there will still be an issue of time management, as most probably we will not be able to achieve the examination of the item B by the end of the Sunday session. For this reason, I would like to suggest that the examination of those nominations that are recommended for inscription and do not present any particular potential issue be dealt with a way to avoid repetitions of interventions aimed only at congratulating the concerned state party. I apply to all members of the committee, as we agreed. On behalf of the committee, we will congratulate the state party and give the floor to their representative to express their view. To this extent, I will ask for the cooperation of all committee members and observers alike, as it would be preferable to uniformly apply this standard from the beginning of the examination of all nominations. The other thing, I apply to the nominees that after the decision, please, if you, after the expression of the opinion of the state party, not to arrange celebrations within the hall or express very big emotions here, because it will prevent us from going further on the nominations analysis. Please do it as you wish, but please outside this room. I'm going to call on ICOMOS and IUCN to be concise in their presentations. And I apply to everyone, please follow the schedule which we approved, and we have a timing behind us so you can easily regulate your speeches. We will start the examination of natural sites now. We will examine 5 natural nominations. The first now is one China migratory birds sanctuaries along the coast of Yellow Sea, Bohai Gulf of China, Phase 1. Draft decision 43-8B.3. And I now invite IUCN to present the nomination. Please, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everybody. IUCN's evaluation of this property is on page 3 of both the English and French versions of the IUCN evaluation report. IUCN met with the State Party of China at its headquarters prior to the committee meeting to receive updates and to understand additional commitments for protection. We've also been provided with some 40 pages of additional information during the course of this committee session, but have clearly not had the time to evaluate this in any depth. Next slide, please. The nominated property is a serial site of 16 components, as you can see in the map on the left in this slide. 2 of the components have been included in the nomination of this first phase, Phase 1. Both Jiangsu Defeng National Nature Reserve, part of Jiangsu Yangcheng National Nature Reserve, and the newly added area of Tianzini are all located on the coast of the Yellow Sea. Despite the property's name, there are no components yet nominated in the Bohai Sea, which is to the north of this area. Although the 2 Phase 1 components are among the largest in the envisaged serial property at just over 188,000 hectares, these remain still a relatively modest representation of what is a vast and complex overall system of tidal mudflats. Next slide, please. The Yellow Sea boasts what are often considered the world's largest tidal mudflats due to the combination of shallow water depth, gentle slopes, wide tidal range, marine currents, and large river systems permanently discharging vast amounts of sediments. It is exceptionally productive and provides spawning and nursery habitat for many fish and crustacean species. The intertidal mudflats also attract a high diversity and large numbers of resident and migratory birds. The property supports more than 400 species of birds as well as 26 species of mammals, 9 species of amphibians, 14 species of reptiles, and over 200 fish species. Next slide, please. These intertidal and coastal systems make a major contribution as an irreplaceable hub of one of the most threatened of the global flyways, the East Asia-Australasia flyway, which links bird populations across at least 21 countries. Large aggregations of birds depend on the coast as a stopover, wintering, foraging and breeding ground. Several species in particular depend on the nominated areas and areas adjacent to them for their survival. These include spoon-billed sandpiper, Nordman's greenshank, great knot and the far eastern curlew. Next slide, please. In terms of naturalness and intactness, the nominated areas are subject to enormous pressures. The overall ecosystem has lost much of its integrity due to the massive transformation and partial destruction of much of the coast of the Yellow Sea. Experts estimate that 2/3 of intertidal wetlands in the Yellow Sea have been lost in the past 50 years. The nominated area is also characterised by heavy marine traffic to and from major ports, creating some of the busiest sea routes in the world. Although the nominated area has been strongly affected by past and ongoing development, recent policy shifts, scientific evidence and international cooperation provide positive signs that the area's global importance can be maintained and eventually even consolidated. Next slide, please. Both Phase 1 components are state-owned and are protected under a range of legal instruments. Resource use is restricted, but some fishing and harvesting rights are allocated to local resource users. Current levels of tourism are limited by difficult and restricted access. Although the two nominated component areas are some of the largest, it is still not clear whether they incorporate all of the attributes contributing to OUV, especially for migratory bird species. Birds are adequately protected on site, but what is not demonstrated is how this first phase configuration provides for habitat linkage or ecological function. A better understanding for IUCN of the resilience of the property to external stresses and threats is also needed, especially given the intense pressures for land reclamation and development on this coastline. Next slide, please. Concerning Criterion 9, the nominated property is compromised due to upstream dams that have changed the course of rivers. Sediment dynamics have also been altered by land reclamation, erosion, infrastructure, and artificial wetlands and channels. Water and sediment pollution also impact on the naturalness of this system. Concerning Criterion 10, the combination of the small representation of the overall intertidal system of the sea, Yellow Sea, the exclusion of key habitats for threatened bird species and other non-intertidal or mudflat habitats, the profound anthropogenic changes and threats from climate change and alien invasive species call the applicability of this criteria into question. Given this high level of anthropogenic modification pressure on the habitats and the still limited representation of the scale and diversity of the large system in the nomination, the integrity can be considered marginal from an ecosystem perspective, however perhaps acceptable from the narrower perspective of critical importance for bird migration. Next slide, please. In summary, IUCN considers that the nominated property has potential to meet World Heritage criteria. However, at this time, it does not meet integrity protection and management requirements. A serial approach is the only practical option to protect critical natural habitat and functions across what is one integrated ecosystem. The rationale for our recommendation for deferral is to allow more time to bring forward a single final nomination which includes the full range of the components. Next slide, please. And the draft decision, Mr. Chair, recommending deferral of the property is set out on page 5 of both the English and French versions of Working Document 8B. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Any comments? Australia.
Australia thanks IUCN for its very comprehensive evaluation of this nomination. We've carefully considered the nomination and consulted with migratory bird experts with detailed knowledge of the site. These experts come from several countries, including Australia. As a result of these deliberations, we've concluded that the nominated property is ready for inscription on the World Heritage List. We did not come to this conclusion lightly and recognise that it's a significant step up from the recommendation that the nomination be deferred. Judged on its individual merits, we consider that the migratory bird sanctuaries along the coast of the Yellow Sea, Bohai Gulf of China, Phase 1, should be inscribed on the basis of Criterion 10. Therefore, we're very pleased to be the lead proponent for inscription of the property and have proposed amendments to this effect. The nominated property is an irreplaceable and indispensable hub for birds migrating along the East Asian Australian flyway, which spans at least 21 countries across 2 hemispheres from the Arctic to Southeast Asia and Australasia. These flyway countries include Australia and Indonesia. We regard this property as a globally significant example of the shared natural heritage embodied in migratory birds. The nominated property's tidal flats are of exceptional importance for the conservation of the world's biodiversity, especially migratory birds, and are significant for more than 10% of the East Asian Australian flyway populations. The nominated property supports internationally significant numbers of migratory bird species, including critically endangered, and other IUCN Red List species, including 2 of the world's rarest migratory birds, the critically endangered spoon-billed sandpiper and the endangered Nordman's greenshank, both of which depend on these tidal flats for their continued survival. We find much value in the assessment and guidance embodied in the draft decision prepared by IUCN and have incorporated this into the amendments to provide a clear framework to support China in bringing forward the Phase 2 nomination. Our support for this inscription is made on the understanding that China is in agreement with the 6 requests set out in our amendments, which should be implemented in time for consideration at the 47th session of the committee in 2023. Thank you.
Thank you. As far as I understand, there is a unanimous proposal on behalf of the Indonesia, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Indonesia would like to keenly second the amendment proposal of Australia to inscribe the nomination of migratory bird sanctuaries along the coast of Yellow Sea, Bohai Gulf of China, with conditions. Together with Australia, we are the only committee members who share the migratory water birds that depends on this property. Of more than 20 countries of the East Asian Australian flyway, Indonesia hosts amongst the highest proportion of these migratory water birds during migration to the northern breeding seasons. We have designated many protected areas for these species, including Deli Serdang in North Sumatra and other islands of Indonesia as flyway network sites for which the Phase 1 nomination of China is of critical importance. Indonesia considers that the Phase 1 nomination well meets Criterion 10 and commend the government of China on their recent far-reaching measures to halt threats and ensure the integrity of their coastal wetlands. Without the commitments, the number of water birds that form part of Indonesia nature conservation areas would unquestionably continue to decline, no matter what conservation action we take in our country. Mr. Chair, given the importance of the Yellow Sea to the entire East Asian Australian flyway, the inscription of this property will contribute toward the conservation of natural heritage, not just in the Yellow Sea ecoregions, but across the entire East Asian Australian flyway that Indonesia is privileged to be part of it. It would also be an outstanding example of the conservation of a property for its natural attributes and will hopefully encourage effort as well in Asia to protect intertidal wetlands. Due to the urgency of the crisis facing this shared migratory water bird population and the need to maintain momentum for their conservation, Indonesia feels that the phase 1 of China's Yellow Sea nomination should be inscribed without delay. The support of the international conservation communities through its stronger conservation instrument, the World Heritage Convention, is urgently needed. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Tunisia, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. La Tunisie, qui, comme vous l'avez remarqué, soutient l'amendement qui est soumis à ce comité, tient à souligner l'importance de cette inscription parce que cela constitue une première étape dans le processus de protection de cet élément naturel et biologique extrêmement fragile. Ce sanctuaire, une fois inscrit, sera déjà un premier pas pour mettre en place un cadre idoine pour répondre aux défis de protection. Je crois que les interventions des honorables représentants de l'Australie et de l'Indonésie, qui sont des pays de la zone et qui sont concernés par le phénomène biologique et naturel de manière plus globale, est un témoignage précieux et un gage d'une coopération internationale future pour la protection de ces espèces extrêmement importantes. Donc je souligne le soutien de la Tunisie au projet d'amendement.
Thank you very much. Cuba, please.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Nos unimos también a la propuesta de enmienda de Australia como parte de los países miembros del comité y consideramos que es una de las propuestas más importantes para estos ecosistemas en estos momentos, pero también para las aves migratorias a nivel mundial. Es una de las especies, o sea, el sitio alberga importantes cifras de especies de interés para la conservación. Y creo que, enhorabuena, le damos las gracias también al Estado parte de China por toda la contribución que está haciendo a la conservación a nivel mundial. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Tanzania, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. Tanzania has treated with keen interest the submission for nomination by China of this 16-component serial and quite extensive but very important property for migratory bird sanctuaries along the coast of Yellow Boha Gulf of China, Phase 1, together with the detailed analysis and subsequent recommendations by IUCN. We admit, Chair, that the treatment by IUCN of this complex submission was comprehensive and balanced, both in context and depth of analysis, and we would like to thank them for the work well done. We are also aware that the state part of China has been following up on this nomination with great commitment and enthusiasm, and as such, it has maintained continuous and constructive consultations with advisory bodies in efforts to address the major concerns that surround this submission. We are also in possession of supplementary information, Chair, on this site that we find very helpful indeed. IUCN does not dispute that the proposed site meets criteria 9 and 10, but has variably raised some concerns on conditions of integrity, protection, and management with some components of this serial nomination. The situation that we are facing here, Chairperson, is that we have a near extinction deterioration of scores of globally important threatened bird species, notably the endemic spoon-billed sandpiper and spotted shrank. On the whole, we are noting here declines of between 70 to 90% of the population sizes of these species over a span of 30 years that are on the record. Given the noticeable geographical and logistical complexity of this nomination, we therefore find it logical and indeed warranted to inscribe its components in a staggered rather than a holistic fashion as proposed by IUCN. However, we highly encourage the state part of China to hasten the plans of working on the nomination for Phase 2 of this serial nomination so as to further strengthen the conditions for its nomination. Chairperson, my delegation supports the amended draft decision as originally submitted by Australia so as to inscribe this property on the World Heritage List. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. May I apply to the committee members? The matter is that we have the draft decision already signed by all the more than 14 members of the committee. And the interventions, as far as I hear, are repeating the same idea to support this decision. Are there any objections or maybe some other ideas concerned with that? Or can we just not to lose the time and give it to the rapporteur to inform us about the new draft decision to start approving the document? If who insists on the word, please, you're welcome. If there are something not peculiar, changes the sense of the discussion, so Azerbaijan, you insist on your word? Then leave it down. No, leave the plate.
Thank you.
Angola, you insist? Thank you very much. May I go to the rapporteur with the new draft decision?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, as we noted, we have 18 countries who have supported this, perhaps more. I'll just read them out just once to make it a little easier as we go through the decision, rather than listing the countries. Just be taken that the group of countries refer to these 18. So it was proposed by the delegation of Australia and then supported by Azerbaijan, Bahrain, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Burkina Faso, Brazil, Cuba, Hungary, Indonesia, Kuwait, Kazakhstan, Norway, St. Kitts and Nevis, Tunisia, Uganda, the United Republic of Tanzania, Zimbabwe and Spain. And I wouldn't be surprised if a few others also. The first paragraph will remain unchanged. The second paragraph would read, inscribes the migratory bird sanctuaries along the coast of the Yellow Sea, Bohai, Gulf of China, Phase 1, China, on the World Heritage List on the basis of Criterion 10. And if I just ask the typist if we could write, there was a "the" missing, the coast, Paragraph 3 will takes note of the following provisional statement of outstanding universal value, which I won't read in its entirety, but I know the committee has considered. 4, underlines the global conservation significance of the East Asian Australasian flyway and the critical importance of the Yellow Sea region habitat for the survival of many species of migratory shorebirds. 5 would read, notes that the decision to inscribe the property is made on the understanding that the state party is in agreement with the following requests of the committee, which should be implemented in time for consideration at the 47th session of the committee in 2023 in order to address fully the requirements of the operational guidelines. 5A, that the state party submit a single Phase 2 nomination that includes all the additional components of the proposed serial listing as a whole in order to reflect the full range of natural wealth and diversity of the ecoregion and to meet integrity requirements. B, the Phase 2 nomination is supported by a comprehensive and detailed overview and analysis of priority conservation areas in the Yellow Sea and Bohai Gulf, including the 14 additional areas identified in the Phase 1 nomination, fully taking into account ecosystem and habitat diversity of the coastal system, proposed boundaries, values, including species occurrence, abundance and conservation status, threats, integrity, protection and management. The former B would be deleted. And then C, confirm with appropriate support from peer-reviewed literature the specific presence of the attributes of outstanding universal value within the boundaries of the Phase 2 nomination and their relationship to the inscribed property, including the presence and size of populations of the, I think that might mean many, rather than, or populations, oh no, maybe of any, sorry, populations of any endemic and threatened species and of globally significant migratory bird species. D and E remain unchanged. F, Provide evidence of effective coordination of management of the entire serial property, including planning for any increasing tourism demand, including the development of appropriately scaled and low-impact tourism in the property. 6. Notes with appreciation the confirmed commitment demonstrated by the state party and local authorities to protect the Tiazini area of the LOC as an integral part of the inscribed property. 7 would read, encourages all related states parties, in the flyway to cooperate with each other in relation to the potential for future transboundary serial nominations and/or extensions that more fully reflect the habitat needs and patterns of use of migratory birds along the East Asian Australasian flyway. 8. Requests IUCN to closely cooperate with the state party to ensure that the future nomination can satisfy the requirements provided in paragraph 5 and the target in paragraph 7.
Thank you very much. May I give the floor to IUCN for brief information?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the committee members for your views on this property. I didn't detect any specific questions. Perhaps just to respond more generally, our views and rationale are, we believe, well articulated in the evaluation. I won't go through and repeat them here. That said, IUCN recognises the ambition and the conceptual complexity of this large-scale serial approach to conserving what is clearly a critical part of one of the most important flyways on Earth. Our evaluation speaks to the values of the nominated properties in this system. We do greatly appreciate the efforts and the agility and the commitment of the State Party of China in their response to the issues which were raised in the evaluation. And we very much reiterate, whilst we have not had the opportunity to evaluate that, we are fully committed to working with the State Party of China on the recommendations which we see in the amended draft decision. And in particular, I would note that of the remaining components which were put forward in this property, we understand that there is flexibility to review and look at some of those, and we're very willing to work with China in that regard, in line, as I said, with the decision that's before us here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So, as far as I understand, most members of the committee agreed on this text provided to the rapporteur, and if there is some particular objections on the text provided, I would like to propose to you to adopt it in common. I don't see any objections from any committee member. Therefore, I declare draft decision 43-8B3 adopted as amended. Approved. On behalf of the committee members, please allow me to express our heartfelt congratulations to China for the inscription on the World Heritage Site. The floor is yours, China State Party.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, the committee. The State Party of China would like to express its most sincere appreciation to Australia and other committee members, as well as a wide range of international NGOs, for their recognition of the global importance of nomination of the nominated property. We are also grateful to IUCN for their constructive advice. This inscription demonstrates the firm commitment of the State Party of China to conservation of world heritage. And will set an example for subsequent sites for the nomination of East Asia, Australasia flyway. I would like now to invite two very important members of this nomination, Madam Zhou, who is the representative of National Administration for Forestry and Grassland, and also the mayor of Mr. Tao, Mayor of Yancheng, who owns this Phase 2 property. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the National Forestry and Grassland Administration, I would like to extend our sincere thanks to the World Heritage Center and IUCN for its long-term support and assistance on World Heritage conservation in China. Chinese government attached high importance on the protection of World Heritage and set the construction of ecological civilization as a national strategy. During the institutional restructure of government in 2018, management of all natural and mixed heritages, as well as all kinds of protected areas, are shifted to the NFGA, and conservation measures are enhanced accordingly. This shows the strong willingness of Chinese government to protect biodiversity and important ecosystem, and to build on green development concept and promote ecological civilization. To be inscribed in World Heritage List not only means a great honor, but also more responsibilities. The Chinese government will continuously strictly implement the convention and relevant decisions. In the meantime, Chinese government will initiate the second phase nomination as soon as possible. Thank you.
I'm the mayor of Yancheng City. Yancheng is a city surrounded by wetlands. For decades, we have made arduous effort to protect the property. The OUV of this area has been recognized in this session, which strengthens our confidence to improve wetland protection and management. In the future, we will continue to enhance international dialogue, communication, and cooperation, more actively take part in the global ecosystem governance, pursue the harmonious coexistence of human and nature, and protect our homeland together with you. On behalf of the 8 million people of Yancheng City, I would like to invite you to Yancheng to visit our unique wetlands, to see the wonderful residing and sand ridges, and to experience the invaluable heritage of the paradise for millions of migratory birds. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oliver Mayer. And now BirdLife International. BirdLife International, on behalf of the NGOs, please, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. I, from BirdLife International, with Eco Foundation Global, speak on behalf of the 62 NGOs and experts from around the world, including along the East Asian Australasian Flyway, who co-signed a letter to the World Heritage Committee members urging a decision today of inscription under Criterion 10 of the first phase of China's Yellow Sea Coastal Serial nomination. We offer our wholehearted support and gratitude to Australia for the pivotal role they have played in finding a solution for the decision of this committee, and to the other 16 state parties who co-proposed their amendment, which we are convinced will give by far the best outcome for the many threatened birds which depend on the absolutely critical habitat provided by this property. On behalf of those birds, especially the beloved spoon-billed sandpiper, and of the many people now and in future generations along the flyway and around the world who appreciate them and who benefit from the ecosystem services of the same coastal wetlands, we reserve our greatest thanks for China and not least Yancheng City. The vision, ambition and commitment that they have shown to coastal wetland conservation in the past couple of years has been truly astounding and second to none. Since the submission of the nomination last year, China has made a number of strict and major changes to national policy which will directly benefit not only both phases of the nomination, but also the wetland ecosystem of China's entire coast. These include restricting further land reclamation while requiring substantial restoration of coastal ecosystems, and a ban on new wind farms in ecologically sensitive areas. These will allow China to meet the strict requirements for protection and management of the property as required by your convention. We stand ready to support China in fulfilling the conditions suggested by IUCN and the Australian Amendment, and in supporting China in their further endeavours in this regard in any way possible.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Once more, congratulations to China. And now we move to the other item. I invite IUCN to present the nomination on the Hirkanian Forest, Islamic Republic of Iran. But before I give the floor to the Secretariat, Mr. Balzama, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. This is just to remind the committee that we received a factual error notification concerning the evaluation of the Hirkanian Forest nomination, and this is to be found on page 2 of the English version of this document and on page 2 as well of the French version of the same document in faith before. Thank you.
Thank you. IUCN, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. IUCN's evaluation of the property is on page 17 of both the English and French version of the IUCN evaluation report. Next slide, please. The nominated property is situated in the Caspian Hirkanian mixed forest ecoregion, stretching 850 kilometers along the southern coast of the Caspian Sea. The nominated site is a serial site with 15 components covering 2 main ecotones, separated from the Caucasus to the west and from the semi-desert areas to the east. In total, around 7% of the remaining Hirkanian forest in Iran, which is 1.85 million hectares, has been included in the nomination. All components are surrounded by buffer zones, and 6 of them are configured into 3 clusters. Next slide, please. The 15 components represent examples of the various stages and features of the Hirkanian forest ecosystem, from swamp forest up to the tree line and subalpine meadows, and even some alpine ecosystem. The Hirkanian region also includes non-forested rangeland above the tree line, as well as formerly forested lowland areas. The nominated property contains tertiary relics from broad-leaf forests that 25 to 15 million years ago covered most part of the northern temperate zone. The 15 components have been selected as the best and sometimes unique existing sample of the relic forest. Apart from the forested belt shared between 3 provinces, there are some smaller forest ecosystems rich in Hirkanian species remaining in Azerbaijan, and a few patches with scrub forests in Turkmenistan. Next slide, please. The Hirkanian forest is considered as an origin for European broadleaf forest, and due to the isolation, hosts many relics, endangered regional and local endemic plant species. The floristic biodiversity is remarkable, with over 3,200 vascular plants documented, of which approximately 280 taxa are endemic and sub-endemic for the Hirkanian region, and about 500 plant species are Iranian endemics. To date, 58 mammal species and 180 birds have been recorded. Persian leopard and the wild goat are among the most threatened and iconic mammals within the property. Many birds on the IUCN Red List, such as the steppe eagle, the European turtle dove, the eastern imperial eagle, semi-collared flycatcher, as well as the near-endemic Castian tit, has also been observed in the region. Next slide, please. The narrow coastal plains along the Caspian Sea are heavily degraded and almost entirely converted into cultivated areas. However, the forest ecosystem has so far been preserved in the higher altitudes. The main potential threats identified for the Hirkanian forest include unsustainable grazing within the components and overgrazing in the buffer zones, illegal logging and deadwood collection, and unregulated access system with vehicle traffic on forest roads, poaching, and unsustainable tourism. Climate change may also be noted as a potential threat, for example, through changes in precipitation and cloud cover patterns. Next slide, please. Although the boundaries of the components do not fully align with legally protected areas, the state party has provided additional information confirming that every component is strictly protected by national legislation and utilization of the area is legally regulated in all components. That said, there is a need to improve enforcement of legal protection and harmonize the boundaries of the protected areas with the World Heritage Property if inscribed by the committee. The management of the properties components is under the responsibility of 3 national agencies. The cooperation between these organizations is functioning well, and a newly established coordination mechanism across the whole serial property should guarantee full comprehensive management of the site in future. Each component has a management plan, and there are proposals to develop a master management plan for the property, which should be expedited. In conclusion, IUCN considers that the requirement for integrity, protection. In conclusion, IUCN considers that the requirement for integrity, protection, and management are met and has made some recommendation concerning the need for improved law enforcement and road closure and access management. Next slide. In summary, IUCN considers that the nominated property meets criterion 9 as it covers most of the environmental features and ecological values of the whole Hyrcanian region. IUCN further considers that the nominated property has the potential to meet criterion 10, but there is a need to undertake inventories which confirm the presence of key species within the 15 components. Next slide, please. The draft decision recommending inscription of this nominated property under criterion 9 is set out on page 5 of both the English and French version of the working documents 8B. IUCN has also recommended the potential for this property, should it be inscribed, to be extended to incorporate the Hyrcan forest in Azerbaijan, and has been pleased to initiate discussions with the host country here to explore. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments? Azerbaijan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My delegation congratulates the State Party for the successful nomination. We also appreciate the IUCN evaluation of this nomination. We would like to mention that as a unique ecosystem in itself, Hyrcan Forest has an OEV which plays a highly important role as a main tool for ecosystem services of the region. As a common and transboundary forest ecosystem, Hyrcan Forest covers the territory of 2 countries, as it was already mentioned by the IUCN, the Republic of Azerbaijan and the Islamic Republic of Iran. Since 2006, the Vilnius decision, which is already mentioned in the draft decision, Azerbaijan, the government of Azerbaijan, took very important measures in the field of conservation and protection of Hyrcan forest as a common ecosystem for future generations, as well as preventing it from possible human factors and climate change. During this period, Azerbaijan has established national park on the base of Hyrcan Reserve in its territory. Regarding to this process, Azerbaijan has updated its national legislation. The territory of national park has been broadened from 20,000 to 40,000 hectares, and the buffer zone also has been widened and precised in important scope. Better conditions have been organized for the population of rare flora and fauna species in the area of the national park, and at the same time management of the territory has been increased. Given all this information, Azerbaijan regrets that we were not able to present joint nomination with the Islamic Republic of Iran and celebrate the inscription of this unique natural site together. As this could be another testimony of successful transboundary cross-border cooperation that we are enjoying with the Islamic Republic of Iran for last years. However, we appreciate the recommendation of IUCN for dialogue between state parties concerned, and we would like to emphasize that Azerbaijan is ready and interested in the preparation of transboundary nomination, adding Azerbaijani part of Hirkan forest to the inscribed one today. We would be happy to work in a very constructive way with the Islamic Republic of Iran and IUCN in order to have extensions of this file. At the end, Mr. Chairman, I would like to kindly ask you to add our statement to the summary records of today's discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. It will be definitely added. And now I don't see any other comments from the committee members. Do we have any additional draft on this item?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have just a technical correction in the final paragraph of the decision to reflect the appropriate country name for the Republic of Azerbaijan. But other than this correction, the decision remains unamended.
So thank you very much. If there are no any other proposal and objections, I therefore declare draft decision 43.8b.4 adopted. Let me congratulate the Islamic Republic of Iran on behalf of the entire committee for the inscription of this property on the World Heritage List and express the hope that soon Azerbaijan will also join to this project. Now, representative of State Party from Iran, please, you are welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We would like to extend our sincere thanks to the distinguished committee members as well as IUCN for the decision taken regarding our nomination. Mr. Chair, in 2016, the desert of Lut was inscribed. Now the Hirkanian. From desert to forest, the ecosystem diversity. It is a historical event for our country that introduced this valuable natural treasure to the world. The inscription of the Hirkanian will open a new horizon, bringing about a high level of protection for the forest and a new vision for next generations. Thanks to all local communities in 5 provinces of Iran and Soko Foundation, and also the host country, Republic of Azerbaijan, for their warm hospitality and for the magnificent event. We sincerely invite the Republic of Azerbaijan to join the Hirkanian Forest World Heritage Site by an extension nomination.
Thank you very much.
For poetry, definitely. As you know, the glowing Hirkanian forests, which are amazingly diverse, would wonder if I don't greet them in poetic verse. One can wander in them joyfully for hours upon hours, surrounded by the mystery of their mesmerizing flowers. Gaze and admire the marvelous wealth of biodiversity of these rare ancient woodlands based in Caspian Sea. Their swaying proud branches, which are beyond words, are tipsy with hundreds of types of singing birds. Eagles majestically soar over the mountains so steep, as among the rocks wild goats playfully skip and leap. Majestic Persian leopard mysteriously prowl and roam, reveling in this wild land that they have made their home. The mysteries of these forests, for millions of years concealed, did not imagine that in Baku to the world they would be revealed. The miracle of World Heritage is making a channel through history to uncover from the dust of ages what has been cloaked in mystery, bringing to human hearts secrets that on perfumed winds used to blow through this vast enhanced forest millions of years ago. Today, I can hear the urgency of the cry of each and every tree begging us to save the environment. Dear friends, heed the plea. We are eagerly waiting that the nomination filed with Republic of Azerbaijan will arrive. Thank you.
Thank you for such a poetic intervention. Thank you. Once more, we congratulate Islamic Republic of Iran for this inscription. So we proceed to the next item, and I invite IUCN to present the nomination of Kaeng Krachan Forest Complex, Thailand. The draft decision concerning this nomination can be found in document 8B.at. But before I give the floor to Secretariat, Mr. Balzama, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is to remind that we received a factual error notification concerning the evaluation of Kaeng Krachan Forest Complex, which is to be found on page 3 of both the English and French version of document INF 8B4. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. IUCN, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. IUCN's evaluation of this property is on page 7 of both the English and French versions of the IUCN evaluation report. IUCN recalls that this property has been through a process of 2 previous referrals. Kaeng Krachan Forest Complex was originally nominated and referred back to the State Party by the committee in 2015 to fully assess a range of issues, including concerns raised by the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights concerning Karen communities within the Kaeng Krachan National Park, as well as the conservation status and viability of certain populations of threatened species reported from the property. The property was then further considered by the committee at its 40th session in 2016 and was again referred back in view of the need to continue to resolve concerns raised by the UN Office of the High Commissioner, including the implementation of a participatory process to resolve rights and livelihood concerns and to achieve a consensus of support for the nomination. The committee also encouraged the State Party at that time to continue the dialogue with the State Party of Myanmar to address concerns regarding the boundary of the nominated property with respect to the international border between Myanmar and Thailand. Next slide, please. The nominated property presented for evaluation incorporates a significant change in the area that is proposed for inscription. So the map on the left, which is not very clear to see, I apologise, but this shows the property as originally nominated. On the right, the adjusted boundary defined in a grid square pattern, which was the information provided to IUCN. This adjustment results in a reduction in area of the nominated property of approximately 15% in area. Next slide, please. The significant natural values of the nominated property and the area that surrounds it have been documented at length in earlier evaluations. In summary, the Kaeng Krachan Forest Complex is a significant part of the Indo-Malayan ecoregion. The complex is located along a section of the 1,700-kilometre Tenasserim Range, which also delineates the international border between the 2 countries. Next slide, please. The Tenasserim Mountains are part of an extensive granite and limestone mountain ridge that is older than the Himalayas. The site is comprised of semi-evergreen, dry evergreen and moist evergreen forest. The site is unquestionably of national and regional significance. This is particularly relevant and appropriate for some specific species, particularly elephant and gaur and Fes muntjac, which is endemic to this region. Other species represented as evidence of global significance include tapir, bears, holes, gibbons and stump-tailed macaque. Next slide, please. The area proposed for inscription remains within the same group of protected areas as previously, which IUCN has previously concluded provide adequate legal protection, but that coordination between the different areas should be enhanced. The new information provided clearly indicates that the State Party has been engaging in a great deal of work to implement the roadmap that was put in place following the original referral, and this is documented in the evaluation. Nevertheless, it is clear that despite efforts by the State Party, there is not yet sufficient evidence that the serious concerns previously raised on issues of rights and consent have been addressed satisfactorily. The Special Procedures Branch of the UN Office of the High Commissioner on Human Rights and 3 special rapporteurs wrote to IUCN expressing significant concerns. IUCN furthermore received direct approaches from local communities concerning lack of awareness about World Heritage and unresolved rights issues. So whilst IUCN acknowledges the work done by the State Party to address these matters, it concluded that more time was needed to reach satisfactory outcomes. Next slide, please. IUCN notes that the change to the boundaries results in a significant reduction in the area of the most important nature conservation values that were previously included in the nomination, and also reduces the connectivity conservation of the property as nominated. The adjusted boundary follows a grid line pattern and pays no heed to ecological patterns or processes. Thus, whilst extremely important values undoubtedly remain, the changes made reduce the potential of the nominated property to meet criterion 10 and potentially criterion 9. So with no opportunity for a further evaluation and the limited time to assess the revised boundary, IUCN is unable to evaluate the impact on values of this significant change that falls outside of the norm for a deferred nomination. Next slide, please. The draft decision recommending deferral of this property is set out on page 1 of both the English and French versions of Working Document 8B Add. Let's go to the next slide, please. So IUCN considers the matters raised here cannot be assessed adequately through the referral mechanism, which does not provide opportunities for a field mission, thus consultation with either the State Party or affected Indigenous peoples and local communities. IUCN is of the view that prior to a further evaluation, the preference would be that the State Party engage directly with the UN Office of the High Commission on Human Rights to seek a satisfactory resolution of the concerns which have been raised. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Any comments? Norway, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Norway commends Thailand for the persistent work on nature conservation. We are convinced that the property has potential for inscription once the committee has received sufficient information. As of today, we cannot make an informed decision. The area that was evaluated by IUCN in 2014 differs from the current nominations. The changes are so significant that it's necessary to revise the nomination and carry out a new evaluation. A lot may have changed in 5 years. There are also questions related to whether the nomination is sufficiently endorsed by the current people, which is another strong argument that a desk review is not sufficient. The current situation portrays significant uncertainty when it comes to the integrity of the property. This entails that some of the most important areas, the ones with the highest biodiversity, have been excluded when the area was reduced. Norway supports the draft decision and the recommendation for deferral. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Australia, please.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Australia welcomes this nomination of the Kang Krachan Forest Complex by the State Party of Thailand. We believe it is a meritorious nomination, but regrettably it is not yet ready for inscription. Australia acknowledges that Thailand has worked to address the concerns of the local Karen communities, but that there is more work still to be done in that regards. Australia notes that there is no clear independent evidence that consensus agreement for nomination of the property has been obtained from the local Karen communities in accordance with paragraph 123 of the operational guidelines. Indeed, we have advice to the contrary from the Karen villages from Ban Bang, Kloi Mu. Australia notes that Thailand has negotiated with Myanmar to change the western property boundary. The boundary change reduces the area of the property by some 15%, and some experts consider it is likely to compromise the significant biodiversity and nature conservation values of the property. As a result of these factors, Australia considers that the nomination needs to be revised and re-evaluated in relation to criteria 10 and possibly criteria 9, noting particularly that the most recent evaluation of the property occurred some time ago in 2014. Australia supports, therefore, the recommendation to defer the nomination.
Thank you. Indonesia, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Indonesia delegation would like to thank the IUCN for its report on Kang Krachan Forest Complex. After discussing intensively with the state party, Indonesia views that the report has not incorporated recent substantial developments that have not been well reflected and hence need to be updated. Indonesia acknowledges significant progress that has made by state party to address concerns raised by the previous committee's decisions. Just recently, last month, the state party has enacted the two new laws, namely National Parks Act and Wildlife Conservation Act, which provides an enhanced balance between conservation and the right and identity of local ethnic communities. In addition to that, other human rights-based measures are also adopted. With regard to the outstanding universal values of the property, we have been informed by the state party that the report has not presented a revised comparative analysis as part of the additional information report submitted by the state party to the Center in January 2019. With regard to the delineation of the nominated area, Indonesia is pleased the recent agreement between the state party of Thailand and Myanmar resulted from the state party's technical meeting in April 2019. Mr. Chair, in our view, the state party has complied with the recommendation given by the 29th and 40th sessions, particularly with the concern on human rights issues and proposed area delineation. The state party's effort by reaching out the related stakeholders have constructed satisfying progress and hence needs to be praised. With the above-mentioned explanation, there are no reasons why the property should not be inscribed in the World Heritage List. Deferral status, as proposed by advisory body, will not provide incentives. It is an unnecessary setback, which is counterproductive to the conservation effort. In this regard, I would like to request the Honourable Mr. Chair's permissions to give the state party the floor to provide further explanation.
Thank you very much. Spain, please.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Evidentemente estamos ante una candidatura con mucho potencial, pero que, como han dicho otras delegaciones, ha sufrido importantes cambios. Habíamos pedido la palabra justo para solicitar lo que ha solicitado ahora mismo Indonesia, que es que teníamos interés en escuchar al Estado parte, sobre todo por añadir más información a la que parece que ha habido en los últimos momentos. Exactamente si ha habido cambios tan grandes, quizás haga falta tiempo para poder estudiarlos, pero nos ilustraría mucho que el Estado parte pudiera intervenir para ayudarnos a entender cuáles son esos grandes cambios y poder también tener nosotros una opinión mucho más razonada respecto a la decisión a tomar, que al parecer está muy bien planteada, pero queríamos más información.
Thank you, Spain. Hungary, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hungary welcomes the efforts of the State Party of Thailand for the protection of the nominated property, and also very much appreciates the new information received about the new proposed boundaries of the site. However, because of lack of time and competence, this information cannot be effectively taken account by our delegation and experts. Therefore, in agreement with the distinguished delegates of Norway and Australia, we suggest that we keep the original draft decision and deferring back the nomination to the State Party. Thank you.
Thank you, Hungary. Brazil, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. This site was originally proposed for inscription in 2014 and evaluated with a referral by the 39th meeting of the committee in Bonn in 2015. After submitting additional information to the committee, the site was again evaluated with a referral at its 40th session in Istanbul. Now, as the site is once again presented for evaluation by this 43rd committee, IUCN recommends that the nomination be deferred for future consideration. We believe that this evaluation would be highly discouraging for the State Party, which has been consistently working in the nomination for the past 5 years, with important developments in this period, such as the revision of national legislation to provide a better balance between conservation, the use of environmental resources and the rights of local communities, the constructive dialogue with the local communities on the development of a participatory management process, and the active engagement with Myanmar regarding the property's boundary issues. We also believe that the recommendation regarding the possibility of a transboundary site entails important political decisions that might transcend the advisory body's technical considerations. We therefore request that this committee considers the continued engagement of the State Party in addressing the circumstances pointed out by the advisory bodies with visible progress, including from the perspective of legal measures. We would therefore support a referral for this nomination. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Brazil. Kuwait, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the advisory board for the continuous working with the State Party for this complex dossier for the last 4 years. I would like also to echo what my colleagues from Brazil, and I agree with them, is, we see there is a progress at the dossier, and there's a progress, especially with the legislation. And I also would like to hear specifically from the State Party regarding the Act, the 2019, the Community Forest Act, which is dealing with the local communities and ethnic groups, and how that help with the UN Commission for the Human Rights. So I think, instead of going backward one step, is at least to maintain the couple evaluation with referral. And I'd like to hear from the State Party regarding specifically about the Forest Act, about the ethnic groups and the local communities legislation, the legislation of that act. Thank you.
Thank you. Tunisia, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais tout d'abord remercier l'organe consultatif de nous avoir présenté ce rapport. Alors, c'est un dossier qui est là entre les mains du comité et dans le processus d'inscription depuis un certain temps. Une réalité est en train de changer sur le terrain et sur le cadre normatif. Nous suivons attentivement les arguments des uns et des autres, mais je crois que c'est extrêmement important de donner la parole, Monsieur le Président, à l'État partie pour nous dire à la fois les mesures qu'il est en train de prendre et surtout le nouveau cadre législatif et normatif qui a été mis en place, ce qui nous permettra probablement d'éclairer la décision de ce Conseil, de ce comité, notamment que l'ensemble des intervenants disent le potentiel extrêmement positif de ce dossier. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. China, please.
Thank you, Chair. We would like to use this opportunity, first of all, to commend the State Party of Thailand in their continuous effort in preserving this very important property. Again, it is a matter for conservation of nature. So in a way that the earlier inscription of our property echoes somehow to this, again, very important natural property. Secondly, we are very much in agreement and support what the distinguished ambassador of Brazil has just said, that the evaluation process, I think, there needs to be more consistency, that this property has been there for quite some time, and the initial referral, and all of a sudden now it's a downgrade to deferral, somehow needs more clarification. We also feel that it is very important that the distinguished State Party of Thailand should be given an opportunity to present what they have recently done in addressing the concerns of the World Heritage Center, as well as the advisory bodies, and informing this committee. I think that we are very pleased to note that they have reached agreement with the State Party of Myanmar in demarcation of the property of their border. Therefore, this is a major issue, and we have also been assured that the Thai government has taken up adequate measures to ensure the human rights issue. So I would first of all encourage further dialogue between the State Party of Thailand and the advisory bodies on this issue, and also hope that there will be some solution to be found. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cuba, please.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Quisiéramos apoyar también la solicitud hecha por el Estado de Brasil, miembro del comité, y otros miembros también de las delegaciones que han pedido que el Estado aparte tenga la posibilidad de darle toda la explicación correspondiente con el proceso de elaboración de esta candidatura y los resultados que el país ha avanzado. Y creo que esto esclarecería a todos los miembros del comité para poder tomar una decisión final sobre esta candidatura. Gracias.
Thank you. Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My delegation's statement will be along with the lines expressed by several members of the committee, and which is a matter of concern for the committee, is a consistency of the decisions taken by the committee and the respect of these decisions by the advisory bodies. This issue was discussed in 2015 in Bonn. It is discussed also in 2016. So we need to take into account the position of the committee, and this will not create a dangerous precedence of disregarding the committee's decision and the guidelines that the committee gives to the advisory bodies and to the state parties. We feel that the state party faithfully tried to implement those recommendations, those reflected in the previous decisions. The state party, for instance, enacted 3 landmark legislations: 2019 National Park Act, 2019 a Wildlife Conservation and Protection Act, Community Forest Act, which is in effect legalized the settlement of local communities, including ethnic groups such as Karen, which had earlier encroached on the protected areas. So these 3 laws seek to strike a balance between the imperatives of conservation and rights of ethnic peoples. Apart from that, we noticed that they had a very long but very constructive discussions and dialogue with state party in Myanmar on finding the solutions on the boundary issues. And we got to know that there was already the agreement reached by the state parties on this issue. So when it comes to the criteria, also we feel that the criteria 10 is satisfied with the information provided by the state party. So in that sense, we believe that the opportunity needs to be given, and also to the state party to also to reflect their views on these issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Guatemala.
Gracias, señor presidente. Nosotros queremos sumarnos a la propuesta presentada por el Estado de Brasil, ya que el Estado de Tailandia ha realizado esfuerzos importantes tanto en la revisión de su normativa, así como también en aspectos técnicos para impulsar esta candidatura durante varios años, de tal forma que el Estado parte deseamos que continúe siendo estimulado y motivado para la preservación de este importante bien. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Kyrgyzstan, please.
Thank you, Chair. Kyrgyzstan welcomes the progress done by the state party in negotiating the boundaries of the property with the state party of Myanmar, and welcomes the progress of the state party of Thailand made in terms of improving its legislation. But at the same time, we would like to request the state party to provide more information about the consultation process with indigenous and local communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Tanzania.
Chairperson, my delegation welcomes the effort which have been done by the state party of Thailand, and we consider that the number of efforts have been done with regard to protection, community involvement, but also management of the property. Our position is just similar to other previous speakers, more specifically Brazil, Kuwait, but also China. Therefore, we are in the opinion that this nomination be shifted from the deferral to the referral status. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to give the floor to the state party to answer the questions which were raised by the committee members, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was present in Istanbul when the committee made the decision. We appreciated the concerns that were expressed at that time. And since then, I wish to assure you that we have taken these concerns and we have taken actions in earnest, in good faith, and in a very serious manner. And progress has been made, and we will continue to make further progress. Now let me go into the details. On the rights of the Karen community, we have sought to resolve this question as part of a long-term, not a piecemeal solution, whereby we have enacted, as mentioned by many committee members already, 2 new laws in March this year. It marks a very important paradigm shift in the sense that we are now working with these communities and permitting them to stay legally, whereas they had stayed illegally before, and allowing them to continue their livelihood while at the same time engaging with them as stakeholders in the protection and conservation effort, in accordance with the principle of free, prior, and informed consent. Now, in this endeavor, we have worked closely with IUCN Thailand, and surprisingly, in contrary to the information that has been disclosed, we have kept the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights informed. I was present at the meeting when the minister in charge had a meeting with the regional director of the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights in Bangkok in January. Now, as for the demarcation issue of the nominated site, this is a very complicated issue, and we have had many rounds of discussion with Myanmar. And I'm pleased to report that we have been able to resolve this issue amicably through close consultations with Myanmar. Now, on the question of OUV, we believe that the Integrity, Biodiversity, and Protection and Management Plan remains intact, and the OUV has not been affected. In fact, we have submitted a comparative analysis of the OUV of the adjusted area to IUCN as required. So we regret deeply that these significant developments have not been reflected in the evaluation report, nor in the report given by ICUN this morning. And we have submitted all the necessary information within the deadline. And so for the above reasons, we believe that the decision for a referral runs counter to the positive developments and only serves, let me repeat, as a disincentive for countries that have taken action in good faith and in a very earnest manner. So Thailand is firmly convinced that given the positive progress that we have achieved, this complex should be inscribed as a World Heritage Site. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. China, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to take the floor again to request on behalf of Myanmar that the State Party of Myanmar wishes also to address just to make some clarification because they have reached agreement with Thailand. Thank you.
Myanmar State Party is represented here, I hope. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since Myanmar is taking the floor for the first time, allow me to express my sincere congratulations to the host country for its warm, hospitality, and well-organized arrangement for the meeting. Congratulations Complex was nominated by the State Party of Thailand in 2014, and it was referred back to the State Party by the committee at its 39th session. At its 40th session, the committee again referred the nomination back to the State Party. At this juncture, about 34% of the said proposed area fell inside the territory of the State Party of Myanmar. That is not in line with Article 11.1 of 1972 Convention and Annex 5.1e of the Operational Guideline regarding the format for the nomination. As the committee recommended the State Party of Thailand to continue dialogue with the State Party of Myanmar to address concern regarding the settlement and demarcation of the nominated areas, meetings were held between the two parties to solve the issue as well as to ensure the nominated areas are situated inside Thailand's territory. When Thailand resubmitted the nomination of Kankura Chai to the committee before 1st February 2019, it was found out that 3 areas still fall inside Myanmar territory according to the map and its relevant coordinates. This map and its coordinates had yet to address the concern of the State Party. When Myanmar and Thailand's technical meeting was held in Bangkok from 25th to 26th April this year, the two sides reached an agreement to move some coordinate points further inside Thailand. It is a position of the State Party of Myanmar that so long as Myanmar's territorial integrity has not been breached and its consent is taken into full consideration, and so long as the nominated areas of Camp Krachan fall entirely inside Thailand's territory, Myanmar sees no reasons to object Thailand's nomination. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, as far as I understand, we have proposals which a little bit conflict with each other, but I hope that we will come to consensus. I will give the floor to NGO representative, and then we will proceed to the decision.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm speaking on behalf of the International Indigenous Peoples Forum on World Heritage. We agree with IUCN assessment that in order to safeguard the credibility of the convention, a defer represents the only viable option to proceed on this nomination. Because of the lack of the full and effective consultation with indigenous current peoples in the forest complex, the failure to seek the consent, and the recurrent violation of their human rights, and for current, their situation has not improved. We also agree that the nominations should be submitted in the format of new nomination after the concerns regarding the rights of the current community have been fully resolved with the free, prior, informed consent has been obtained. To ensure that new nomination fully affects the needs and priorities of the current, it is essential that it's prepared with the full and effective participation of all stages of the process and with the involvement of heritage experts chosen by the current themselves. Current people have opposed to the principle of the forest to the forest complex becoming World Heritage Sites, but they do not have concerns on the designation of might lead to the further destruction of their traditional way of life, culture, loss of access to the lands, and restriction to the uses of the forest products and the forced eviction. Over the past decade, there has been at least 5 attempts to forcibly remove the current villages from the Kankajen National Park by police officers, militaries, and the park officials. The current community wish to continue their traditional livelihoods. The intrinsic system of rotational farming, which relies on the 7 to 10 year cycles and itself an outstanding cultural heritage that is deeply rooted to the nominated area. Mr. Chair, the problem encountered in the context of this nomination mirror the experiences of indigenous people with many other World Heritage sites. To a large degree, they have been result of the absence of appropriate operational guidelines that would ensure the indigenous peoples are fully engaged in nomination process from the very beginning, including tentative listing, and their consent is obtained before the nominations are submitted. We urge the committee to address this problem through the relevant changes of the operational guidelines and the nomination process to prevent damage to the reputation of the convention. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. May I ask IUCN for some clarification?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. IUCN has welcomed and understands the work that the State Party of Thailand has engaged in to address the matters which were raised by the committee in previous decisions. Here we have received a lot of additional information. We've been informed of new pieces of legislation adopted very recently, which are not in any of the working languages of the committee, so we haven't had no opportunity to really assess these. We've also received information on the agreement reached with Myanmar, and including fresh maps only received this morning. I would like to just emphasise a couple of points which I think will serve as clarifications and assist the committee in its thinking. From IUCN's view, there remains serious community engagement and rights issues with this property that need to be satisfactorily resolved. We have had strident representation from the Office of the High Commissioner on Human Rights and the 3 rapporteurs. To my knowledge, we have never received the engagement of this office in a nomination to the World Heritage list previously. We have also, within that information, received a number of fresh allegations, fresh concerns and issues raised by that office and the rapporteurs. And as I mentioned, we have received direct concerns from affected communities, and you have just heard that for yourself from an intervention. The second point I would like to make is not to underplay the significance of the boundary adjustments for this property. This is a 15% reduction, and whilst we acknowledge and applaud the agreement that has been negotiated and reached between Myanmar and Thailand very recently, for us and from a technical perspective, this issue is somewhat secondary to understanding the impact on values, understanding the configuration of this property, and what has occurred to the value attributes within this system. And we simply have not had the opportunity to evaluate and understand that particular aspect of the change. The last thing I would like to just comment on is a number of committee members have mentioned the options of deferral, referral, etc. I think it's important to just state from IUCN's point of view that deferral is not considered to be a downgrade or a negative recommendation. It's a recommendation that gives us the opportunity to work more closely with Thailand on the ground in the processes which are made available to us. As was pointed out, the evaluation, the field evaluation of this property dates from 2014. We have not had the opportunity to be on the ground again to work with Thailand. We have used IUCN's office in Bangkok in a sense as our surrogate to work with Thailand on a number of these issues, but we really need to have a direct, fresh evaluation in our view. If this property were to be referred again, we potentially have a 7 to 8 year gap between a field evaluation and a final consideration of this committee, and in our view this does not give us the capacity to provide you with the correct advice in terms of your decision making. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much for this clarification. So may I give floor to the rapporteur, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've received one set of amendments proposed by the delegation of Indonesia to inscribe this property. The first two paragraphs remain unchanged. There would be a new paragraph 3, which would read, welcomes the technical agreement reached by the states parties of Thailand and Myanmar on the delineation of the boundary of the nominated area based on the agreed minutes and their pertinent coordinates of the technical meeting held in Bangkok on 25-26 April 2019 between Myanmar and Thailand. A new fourth paragraph takes note of the progress made by the state party on the adoption of new legislation, namely the National Parks Act and the Wildlife Conservation and Protection Act, aiming to support the local Karen communities to preserve their identity and way of life in the nominated area. A new paragraph 5 inscribes Kang Krachan Forest Complex Thailand on the World Heritage List on the basis of Criterion 10. Paragraph 6, a new one, takes note of the provisional statement of outstanding universal value, which follows. It would then remove the next three paragraphs. So that's former paragraph 3, 4 and 5. And then would read, encourages effective implementation of the new legislation in order to ensure the rights and livelihood of the Karen community based on their free, prior and informed consent. And the final paragraph would read, further encourages the States Party of Thailand and Myanmar to work in partnership on future biological connectivity opportunities between the property and neighbouring transnational protected areas within the Thani Thai Forest Corridor in Myanmar. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. The Centre has something to clarify, please.
Thank you, Chair. If we can scroll back to point 3 of this proposed amendment, I just wanted to raise some concerns as this, while we welcome, of course, the technical agreement reached by the state parties of Thailand and Myanmar, we have to recall that in compliance with paragraph 148.I of the operational guidelines, the evaluation of the state parties should not take into account or include any information submitted by state parties after 28th of February. And in this case, we see that the dates of this agreement in which we are talking about a new delineation of the boundaries are in late April. So I wanted just to remind the committee that This is not the version of the nomination that was in front of them, and it has not been, of course, evaluated by the advisory body. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So we are in front of some decision. The matter is that the draft consists the deferral. Some countries decided to follow the proposed draft. Indonesia proposed the version where the site is inscribed into the World Heritage List. More delegates, more members of the committee initiated the idea of the referral. So can we come to some explanation from those who propose the referral? How should we proceed with that middle decision? Some delegation. Brazil, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As it was explained to us recently by UNESCO advisory bodies, the situation on the ground was not evaluated after the agreement between Thailand and Myanmar that was clarified. You know, the information taken into consideration was only prior to that agreement. We are very pleased with the statements made by the distinguished delegate of Myanmar, stating that Myanmar has nothing against, or on the other hand, Myanmar favors the inscription of the site. So we would be ready to support the Indonesian amendment. Thank you very much.
So this is another proposal, addition to Indonesia. Indonesia, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We would like to thank the comment from our member committees and also from the IUCN and Secretariat. What Indonesia proposed, why we proposed inscribed, is to see that the state party already do something progress, improving what the process to make a better property in management as the World Heritage Sites. So again, we think that if we will be back on the certain situations, then we will be longer discussion on the process, and I think it also will be disincentive for the state party to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? But as far as I understand, China, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm sorry to take the floor again. It's the third time for this issue. But I think it's a very important property that merits very positive consideration. We also, but at the same time, we do recognize some of the concerns being raised, particularly after the agreement between Thailand and Myanmar is resolved, the property shrinked somehow, and whether this will affect something that's for experts to judge. Nonetheless, we always are in the belief that the state party's intention for nominating this property is primarily for the preservation of this very important property. And for this, on this note, it is always better to give the state party encouragement in this regard. We are prepared to support inscription as well if the committee can agree to come to an agreement on this. It's, I mean, it's been a property that, under nomination for since 2014, so 5 years already, and the state party has been engaging the international, the advisory body and the international legal organization on human rights and on every aspect, and therefore they deserve consideration. Thank you.
So there are still some difficulties with the approval of this decision due to the some wordings matters which were proposed by Indonesia, supported with Brazil, now by China. So I consider that we have to follow with our usual and very effective style of work if we will ask some delegates to come to some decision until the end of the day by negotiations, if it is possible. Cuba, please.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente, y voy a tomar la palabra por segunda vez. Creo que también comparto el criterio de China, o sea, estamos en un momento importante y creo que vale la pena analizar que el Estado parte ha hecho esfuerzos por lograr que el sitio se pueda inscribir. Llevan más de 4 años tratando de dar respuestas a cada uno de los elementos que el comité en otras sesiones anteriores ha solicitado a través de diferentes declaraciones, pero también es importante alentar al Estado a toda la solución de cada uno de los señalamientos que se le han hecho. Consideramos que entonces debe ser inscrito el sitio como parte de la lista de sitios de patrimonio. Gracias.
Thank you. No other opinions. So, Australia, please.
Mr. Chairman, you suggested that some effort might be made in order to find a bridge to a point of agreement around this. Australia certainly can't support the proposition of inscription, and of course our strong preference would be for a deferral, because we don't in any way see a deferral as a downgrading. It's simply a reflection of the current state of the dossier has been evaluated by IUCN, and we do concur with that assessment. But nonetheless, if there is a move towards referral again of the property, that we think it is very important that such a referral provides very clear guidance to the state's party about the sort of things that need to be addressed. And from our perspective, it would need to bring back a revised nomination in light of the significant boundary change proposed, and that would include a revised comparative analysis. We would want to see a comprehensive update on the state party's engagement with the Karen community in accordance with paragraph 123 of the operational guidelines, and we would also suggest that the United Nations Office of the Commissioner on Human Rights should be asked to review the dossier in relation to the point about engagement with the Karen community through paragraph 123, and that advice from the Commissioner on Human Rights Office be provided to the committee as part of the evaluation of the revised nomination. And if an amendment in those broad terms was acceptable to the committee, then we would be willing to support a referral rather than a deferral of this nomination.
Thank you very much. Spain, please.
Gracias, señor presidente. Era para una corrección. Nosotros ya hemos intervenido pidiendo más información, pero no habíamos hecho una propuesta concreta y no es justo que nos atribuyamos méritos que no tenemos. Quizá la relación fraternal con Cuba y el idioma les ha llevado a sustituirnos, pero en los puntos donde pone Indonesia, Brasil, China y España, quizá debería decir Cuba. No era una propuesta nuestra, era una propuesta de Cuba y no queremos sustituir a Cuba en su paternidad de la firma.
Thank you. Norway.
Thank you, Chair. Norway concurs with the Australian delegation's intervention.
Honorable members of the committee, we are just in front of the decision, so we have two more applies, Cuba and Angola. Please, Cuba, please.
No, gracias, señor presidente. Era para la aclaración que hizo España. Gracias.
Thank you. Angola, please.
Monsieur le Président, je voulais appuyer votre proposition. On a besoin de quelques consultations. Je vous remercie.
Okay, thank you very much. We must understand the positions of all the advisory bodies, the state party, and have, from one point of view, we have to give the chance to the state to prove the activity which have been launched, and especially in the point that the agreement between Thailand and Myanmar were just agreed recently, and the members of the committee didn't have chance to get the maps of the inscribed territory nominated. So I think that we'd better appoint the working group for the working out the decision, and more delegates are coming to the decision of the referral. I think that the referral will give the possibility to the state body to go with the more details inscription possibilities. So, but it is my opinion, so you can work it out during the working group until the end of the day. Indonesia, please.
I thank you, Chair. I would like to respond to Cuba's comment of saying that the committee hasn't got any concrete information on the updated progress reached by Thailand. Just this morning, we've been informed by the delegation, with the state party, that they have sent to the IUCN, they have sent email to the ICUN and the committee members, the progress, the agreed map between the Thailand and Myanmar, and that could be used as further considerations by the committee members, Chair. And on this opportunity, I would like to also to inform you that the text displayed on the screen are not the latest. So we already sent, slight modifications on the draft, particularly on paragraph 3 and paragraph 6, the last. So paragraph 3 will start with text note or recognize. We can go with either one of them.
Let us follow the experience we had before that. So let us appoint the working group to work out the common decision and return to us to the end of the day. Who will be willing to be in the working group? Australia, Indonesia, Norway, Kuwait, Tunisia, and Cuba. 6 countries. Thank you very much. And we apply for your efforts to find the solution which will be suitable and acceptable by all committee members. Thank you very much. Now we have announcements for the side events from Mrs. Rossler, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. As you know, we start today with the Operational Guidelines Group from 2 to 3 in room A7. Then you have from 1 to 3 a meeting of the World Heritage related Category 2 centers and institutes, the Arab Regional Center for World Heritage in room A6. From 1 to 2:50, World Heritage Interpretation and Reconciliation of Cultures by the Korean National Commission for UNESCO in room A8. From 1 to 3, Sustainability, Youth and Innovation in Africa, the African World Heritage Fund in room B1. And from 1:10 to 2 o'clock, 2020, the Great Walls between China and the United Kingdom by ICOMOS China, the Chinese Academy for Cultural Heritage, Historic England, in room B3. Then we have an opening of an exhibition, a Holy World Heritage Site, Shining Again, restoration of the Nativity Church in Bethlehem, Palestine, in the networking area, which is the main lobby in front of room A8. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, and we announce the break until 3 o'clock. Please proceed in time to start correctly.